Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So in this video we're going to be cleaning up our C code and making it much more easier to read, much more easier to program in, and just basically making our lives much easier. So just to reiterate what we went through in the previous video in the introduction to this playlist is mostly aimed at people that can already code in C. So if you're finding that I'm going a bit too fast paced and I'm not explaining stuff properly, go and watch this C programming tutorial. It's about 3 hours long. It's free. You can skip to parts that you're a bit weak at. Get well grounded in the C programming language, and then it will make programming the Azure much easier for you. So, all right, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to be using a bunch of defines to clean up our code. So let's go define. All right, and then so let's do color threshold. Okay, I'm going to set that to 1000, and then we're going to copy and paste our color threshold. So we're going over this program which we went through in the beginner tutorials. So let me just quickly talk you through this in case you haven't watched those playlists. We've got some line following code and we're testing to see if there's a collision. And then if there is a collision, we're reversing for half a second. We're spinning 180 degrees. And in terms of the LEDs, we're keeping the LEDs green if there's no collision, and in red if there is a collision, and also whilst reversing. So the way that we're determining whether there's a collision or not is we're reading the two photo transistors on the front of the Azure, and then we're comparing that data to a set value, which we've set at 1000. You can change it to whatever you want. 0 being complete darkness, meaning that black, and 1500 around that being complete bright white, meaning that we're on, for example, the background or something. So we've set it to 1000. This depends on your ambient light, your room light, where you are. I'm testing the Azure right underneath a bright window, and then I've got a whole bunch of bright lights as well. So my room's a bit brighter, but you can adjust this figure here to increase the accuracy of the Azure. So what we've done is we've just obviously created a define here, color threshold, set it to 1000, which is equal to this value here, and then I'm just replacing the color threshold of 1000 with color threshold. So obviously you should know by now, but we use defines to make the code much more readable. So we're saying if our left data is less than the color threshold and our right data is less than the color threshold, that's much easier than 1000. So tip for when you're using defines is obviously to use descriptive names, so color threshold. Another thing to do is to write it in all capitals. It's convention, you don't have to do it. You could do this. Oops, I'm writing in capitals again. You could do that and that would still work, but it's convention to use capitals. Okay, so always add comments to fully describe what it is. I see comments as a way of talking to my future self. So when I come back and look at this in 2 years' time, I understand what I'm looking at straight away. Okay, so 1500 is pure white, 0 pure black, threshold is... And then what I like to do is I actually make a definitions text file, and then I put that in the folder with my code as well, so that I can expand on this and I can go into more detail without it clogging up my code. So let's make a text file, call it definitions.txt, and then what we do is we'll copy and paste this bit in again. Right, okay, let's put this file contains all definitions used within my Azure code. The purpose is to go into more detail. Let's put color threshold here. The color threshold, right, so let's put this color threshold is used to know whether the Azure is on the line or not, i.e. if less than 1000 it's probably near a line, if less than 500 it definitely is on a line, and then etc. Cool. So if I was to put all of this into my code now, it would just look cloggy and clunky. So this is a pro tip: make a definitions text file and you can keep that alongside your code. Okay, so now we've placed it in our code. We don't have this color threshold set anywhere else, but if we wanted to use it now, we could. Another thing we could do, which I'm sure you guys should know about, but if you've got color threshold set as a number, then you can do things like color threshold minus 500, stuff like that, and that all works. That will become 500 now. So very cool pro tip. Okay, so let's now do one for motor speeds. So let's put speed of motors, right, and then we're going to put define again Let's put very slow speed. Just copy and paste that a few times. Let's put slow speed, very slow speed, slow speed. Let's put standard speed, and let's put fast speed. Okay, and then we set that to 80, 130, sorry, 100, 130, and 150. Cool. So now you know how we've got all of this on our motor speeds. We've got it going, one going slightly faster than the other. You know, if you wanted to go through and change it just becomes an absolute headache. So instead of doing all of that, what we can do now is just take our very slow speed, and we can find all our values of 80. Makes the whole thing much more readable. Okay, let's take our 100 value, search for that. Now we're just replacing the definitions. We don't want to replace that I variable one, obviously. Motor speed. It just means that now if I want to change my slow speed, it just, instead of having to change 6 different places within my code, I can just do that to 200, for example. Cool. Okay, so let's do the same for standard speed. Let's find all our 130 variables. Here we go. And so obviously you can call them whatever you like. You can set them to whatever value you like. Okay. If you're watching this now and you're like, what is he doing? Why doesn't he just create a function? Don't worry, I'm getting to that. Sometimes I'm watching videos and I'm telling the person off. I'm like, what is going on? I'm ready to write a mean comment, and then the guy does it. So, all right, and I don't have any fast speeds right now. That's fine. We've got 70 and 120 here, so that was a bit off. I must have forgotten to change that somewhere. So let's change that to very slow speed. That's 70, and then the standard speed 130. Okay, let's just see if there's anywhere else that I have gone to do. Motor speed. So I'm just searching through the file now. There we go, one at the top, 120 again. So standard speed, and then very slow speed. All right, so there we go. So now we've got, instead of just having a whole bunch, you know, when you're looking through your code and you're just seeing a whole bunch of numbers everywhere, it's confusing, frustrating. Especially this code currently right now, it hardly does anything. Like, we're going to improve on this big time. We're currently at 130 lines of code. Once you get to 1,000 lines of code, you just see numbers. Confusing, man. So you want to see standard speed, very slow speed, etc. Makes it so much easier to read. Let's now move on to functions. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this code here by using some functions. So we've got our code, this big chunk of code here. If pole switch is greater than 0, then reverse, do it for a certain amount of time, then spin and do that for a certain amount of time, and then exit. So we're going to create a function because we've used this bit of code here once, and then again all here, twice, and then again all here. And it's just long, like, especially if you want to change any of that, you have to then go back and copy and paste it. That's definitely not how you definitely don't want to be programming. So let's create a function. Again, if you don't know what a function is, or you don't know how to use a function, then I highly recommend going back and watching this C program tutorial. It's linked in the description. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to declare the function at the top first, above our main function. Then we'll say collision detect. That's the name of our function. We're going to have it not return anything, so void. Okay, and then we're going to create the function down here after our main. Go int collision detect, and then we're going to say void again, not returning anything, and then we're going to copy and paste in our code for our collision. And this is where you're going to break your code, so you definitely want to be wary about that. So for example, we don't have an I variable here. You see, we've got an I variable for our for loop, but we don't have it in this function. So this I doesn't mean anything to this function. So we need to declare a new I variable in I is equal to 0. And then now also this I variable is going to be obsolete, so we can get rid of it. Okay, that's one thing. Next thing, we're going to have to add a return function or return command to tell it that we're finished. Okay, right, so that's everything we need there. Then now we want to just put the function where it's been called. So we used it, so collision detect, and then you put brackets and a semicolon, and that's it. So now, just like we're calling this motor speed function, and we're calling this multi-direction function, we're also calling this function here. And so we can go back here now. You see this other if statement for this. Replace all of this big bit of code with that one function call. And then we can do the same again here. Again, another function call. And that's it. So now look at our main. This is the whole of our main function. And you can see instead we're just calling this function here 3 times. And it's just, that's beautiful to read. You can read that. Super easy to do. Super easy to make changes as well. I just have to change here and I'm done. Cool. Okay. So that's it for this video. So main things to take away is that obviously you want to make sure that your code is just nice and easy to read. And using definitions and using functions, this is what's going to make a big difference. So you're going to see me use a lot of functions moving forward. I'm going to use a lot of definitions. I don't like seeing numbers in my code. I want to see lots of definitions and words that I can actually read. So you're going to see me do that a lot. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.